The Rat King, Evil Laura, and Creepy Lisa. These are the 10 scariest things found in video games, Part 2. Number 10, they're listening. Sci-fi and horror movies have always tried to give us a good scare from time to time. From monsters to aliens to ghosts, among other things, there's a lot to choose from the horror filmmakers. But one time that'll stick with us forever was in Nostromo, when a baby xenomorph came out of a character's chest. But even though Alien Isolation is not nearly as big as Nostromo, it was the first game about aliens that brought horror to its players. The game is set in the world of Sevastopol, where you need to know how to escape your enemies. But one thing players had to find out the hard way was staying quiet. Even though your player in the game may be quiet and hiding from alien monsters, making any sound in the real world could be a problem. So let's say you're celebrating after running away from a monster, well, you're dead. If you breathe too loudly, you're gone. Chew loudly, also gone. How, you wonder? Well, the game uses the mic in your controller to pick up sounds, and no one else but the xenomorphs hear those sounds. So just as you think you're in the clear, there comes this scare that can make you throw away your controller. Now you're both terrified and quiet. What a game. Number 9, T-Rex. Even though the Tomb Raider series didn't have a reputation in the horror scene, they still have some scary stuff. Over the years, the games have become more supernatural, which increases the number of scares that players can experience. As a result, while players aren't looking forward to being scared, they can expect to see something strange. But nothing prepared anyone for the 1996 original Tomb Raider. When you get to the Lost Valley level, you'll find a T-Rex. No, it's not sitting around being cute. It's about to come after you. Even though you can see it coming and you hear the sound of its footsteps, you can't help but be scared by the size of the beast. Also, the makers decided to put in some scary music that makes you even more terrified. The music starts suddenly and is so quick and played only on strings. Number 8, Night Folks. It's 2 o'clock in the morning and you've arrived at a swamp in Red Dead Redemption 2. You look around and find a woman sitting near a fire. A camper, right? Maybe not. You hear her crying. It breaks your heart. What could be the problem? So you start moving towards her like the good person you are. Psych! She's not a woman or in need of help, because as soon as you get close, she takes a swing at you. While you try to recover from the shock of such bad manners, she calls upon Night Folk. The Night Folk look like zombies and will give you a hard time. Your player may not even make it out alive. What makes the Night Folk so terrifying is how they come at you. One minute you're trying to help, and the next you're in trouble. Things are just happening so fast. We'll be surprised if you're still holding onto your controller and try to fight back. And it's not just one swamp. All the swamps in Red Dead Redemption. So even if you've played this part 100 times, the scare is still going to get you anyways. Number 7, the Upside Down Sinners. It isn't surprising that World of Warcraft has different worlds to play in. Many areas were tested before the game was released, but not all of them got into the final game. One of the first versions of the game had one of these worlds, which the makers were still working on, but they closed it off so players couldn't get in. So when players found a glitch that allowed them to enter the incomplete area called the Forgotten Crypt, or the Karzon Crypt, they weren't quite ready for what they saw. To enter, your player has to die close to the gate. So when they respawned, they showed up inside the new place. The inside of the crypt looks empty at first, but if you start going inwards, you'll find the Upside Down Sinners. Imagine a pool filled with people. No one's having fun, because everyone is chained together and left hanging upside down dead. If this doesn't give you bad dreams, you are a really strong person. Number 6, Lights Out. Many people are scared of the dark. It's why they like to sleep with the light on when going to bed and won't turn off the lights at night. Visceral Games knew this, and they used it to create one of the scariest moments in video game history. So, your character called Isaac Clarke arrives at Ishimura, a starship crawling with monsters. You get in and almost immediately the lights go out. You can't see anything. And just as you try to check if your TV has gone bad, you start hearing voices. Before you can make sense of what's happening, the monsters you came to kill find you and start attacking. Number 5, the Nightmare Alley. The first 5 minutes of Silent Hill shows just how great the game is. The makers are real geniuses in how they designed the game to deliver one of the scariest parts of the game. First, you notice the thick fog around you. Then you hear the hum of electronics and your footsteps as your character, Harry Mason, starts running after a ghost. You get to an alley and everything just changes. Something starts stalking you. It watches from the ground and slowly moves closer to your player. If your heart isn't beating fast at this point, then you're holding your breath. The longer you stay there, the darker the place becomes. Then you start to see blood on the wall, rusted metal, and the bodies of people killed by a monster. Almost immediately, you hear the sound of a siren, and just as you turn, you see a monster with a knife coming towards you. This is just the first 5 minutes of that game, so you don't know how to fight off these monsters. You also don't know how to escape. The horror. Number 4, Death Claws. In Fallout 3, there are many things that'll keep you up at night, but only a few are as scary as the Death Claws. There's even part of the game called Death Claw Sanctuary, where you'll find a ton of these monsters. That's a big no from us, thank you. Whether you mistakenly found yourself among them or decide to be a hero and go after them yourself, prepare yourself for one of the scariest monsters you'll find in video games. A death claw is like a walking bag of bones with a creepy face and sharp claws. You don't want this thing coming close to you. And that's just one of them. Imagine being attacked by a ton of them. We'll be turning off our game and going to bed, you better believe it. Number 3, Lisa PT. What makes PT one of the best video games around is how the whole story leads to its biggest scare. The game puts you in a house with little light and creepy decor, but if you play long enough, you'll get used to it. There are many corridors and loops in the house that you have to go through. The longer you play, the more terrifying things start to get. You start to feel tense, and you can just feel the scare coming. But the game takes its sweet time. Soon you start to hear some radio static, and then out of the blue you hear, "Look behind you." And just as you turn, you see Lisa. Her face is close to yours, like she wants to whisper in your ears. If you don't fall back in your chair or scream until you're blue in the face, you're one of the bravest of us all. Number 2, Laura. Even though The Evil Within is a game with a lot of scary stuff, none of them are like Laura. You don't get to meet her often, but that's a good thing. Laura is a monster who walks on all fours with 2 sharp claws coming out of her back. Even though she looks like a spider, she has a human head. No thank you. Like many monsters, Laura just shows up out of nowhere. No warning, nothing. She just crawls out of the ground and becomes your problem. The game doesn't even give you time to look at her before she starts running after you. Just no. Laura is a thing of nightmares. Now we move on to the moment you've all been waiting for. Number 1, the Rat King. A lot of people don't like rodents, especially rats, because they destroy things. So what do you think of a monster called the Rat King? The Last of Us is one of the most popular horror video games around today, so the series has some scary stuff, but nothing comes close to the monster that is the Rat King. We can't correctly describe this thing, because it's all shades of scary. It's like someone took all the scariest things they could find and slapped them together in the weirdest way. The worst part is that you don't get a warning. You'll be enjoying the game until you run into the monster, which makes you rethink your life choices. Man, I'm definitely not going to be playing that before going to bed. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon.